Have you ever wondered why some of the smartest people you know, elite degrees, brilliant models, impressive titles, still end up broke, while someone with an ordinary job quietly builds real wealth? It feels like a glitch. Now, we're taught money is math and rules, logic, clean formulas. But money doesn't live in spreadsheets. Money lives in your nervous system. Because finance isn't just knowledge. Now, it's behavior. It's a soft skill. It's what your brain does. When a chart turns red, it's what your ego does. When someone else wins, it's what your fear does. When uncertainty walks into the room. Today, we're not talking about budgeting hacks. We're not talking about stock tips. We're talking about the invisible script running beneath your choices, the psychological triggers that either build your future or burn it down. And to understand the psychology of money, you need one idea that changes everything. Do you know the difference between a fine and a fee? Imagine you want something expensive, something shiny, tempting, status-loaded. A midnight blue Porsche. You can get it two ways. One, you pay the price tag. It's clean. Heck, it's straightforward. And it hurts. Once, two, you try to get the reward without paying the real cost. And that cheap option always invoices you later. So with stress, with fear, with consequences. A lot of people treat investing like option two. They want the returns, but they try to dodge the emotional cost. They look at market drops like a fine, like a punishment for doing something wrong. But here's the shift. Volatility isn't a fine. It's a fee. It's the price of admission for long-term participation. Because returns don't come from comfort. They come from surviving discomfort without panicking. Here's what investing actually feels like. When it's real, sometimes your portfolio drops hard, fast, and unfairly. Not because you made a mistake. No, but because markets are emotional machines. Your phone shows a number you worked years to build on suddenly slashed. Your chest tightens. Someone asks what this means for the future. Friends have opinions. The room gets loud. That burning sensation right there is the fee arriving. And if you sell in that moment, you don't just lose money, you pay the fee. And then you add a fine on top because you locked in the worst possible timing. The people who win long-term aren't always the best predictors. They're the ones who understand the fee is part of the ride, but you can't pay a fee forever if you don't know why you're paying it. Which brings us to the next trap, the one that destroys more people than any market crash. The trap of never feeling enough. There's a story about a party at a billionaire's estate. Two famous writers are talking. One whispers, "How does it feel to know our host makes more money in a single day than your best-selling book made in its entire history?" The other writer smiles and says, "I have something he may never have. Enough." We live in a world designed to make enough feel like losing because comparison has no finish line. You can be successful until you meet someone more successful. And then your brain quietly rewrites the scoreboard. And when you don't have a stop button, you start trading things you need for things you only want. Time and health. Relationships. Peace of mind. People don't implode because they don't understand money. They implode because they lose the ability to feel satisfied. It's like a gambler who wins big, but can't leave the table. Not because he doesn't understand math, because his brain becomes addicted to the chase. And here's the key. No one is actually crazy. We're all just playing a different game. If you saw a man burning his furniture to stay warm, you'd call him insane. But if you knew he was trapped in a cabin during a brutal blizzard with no other fuel, you wouldn't call him insane. You'd call him a survivor. In Moneyline, we judge people's decisions without looking at their weather. Take the lottery. To a wealthy person, it looks foolish, but to someone locked out of every normal path to wealth, at that small ticket can feel like the only doorway left. Sometimes people spend hundreds a year, not because they can't do math, but because that ticket buys something powerful. For a few minutes, hope. Not a return on investment, a return on peace of mind. And that's where most financial advice fails. Because it assumes everyone is playing the same game, but we're not. We all have an invisible money script written into us before adulthood. If you grew up watching your parents lose everything in a crisis, your brain learns risk equals danger. If you grew up with scarcity, your brain learns security is everything. If you grew up in chaos, your brain learns control equals safety. So what seems reasonable for one person might be catastrophic for another. A young person with no dependence is playing speed. This is a parent is playing stability. Someone older might be playing legacy. The moment you copy someone else's moves without knowing what game they're playing, you've already lost. But even if you play your game perfectly, there's still a monster hiding in the shadows because the world doesn't move in straight lines. Imagine it's the year 1900. You're the smartest economist alive. You have all the data. You predict a century of peace and steady progress. And you'd be wrong. The biggest events don't announce themselves in advance. They don't come with a warning label. They're outliers, rare, unexpected, massive, black swans. A black swan is an event, so unlikely people assume it can't happen. Yet so powerful, it resets the world. Here's the problem with most financial plans. They're built on the past, but the most important events are the ones with no precedent. So if you only prepare for what you've seen before, you're standing in an open field during a lightning storm. Because it hasn't rained yet. This is why real planning isn't about perfect forecasts. It's about room for error. Most people plan as if income will rise, emergencies won't happen, and markets will behave politely. That's not a plan. That's a fairy tale. A real plan includes margin, enough cash, enough flexibility, enough psychological endurance to be wrong, to be unlucky, to be surprised, and still not go bust. Now here's the twist. Even when people know this, they still fall for one seductive trap: pessimism. If I tell you the world will end in 6 months because of some hidden collapse, you'll lean in. It sounds sophisticated. It's protective. Smart. But if I tell you things might be moderately better in 10 years because of slow, incremental progress, it sounds boring. And that's the problem. Pessimism feels like armor. Optimism sounds naive. But this is an evolutionary glitch. In the wild, that bush might hide a predator, kept us alive. That bush might have berries, was nice but not urgent. So we treat financial threats with predator energy. Progress happens like a growing tree, quiet, slow, nearly invisible day to day. Destruction happens like a chainsaw, sudden, loud, headline-worthy. We're wired to obsess over the chainsaw and ignore the forest growing behind us. So if you only listen to the smartest-sounding pessimist, you may feel safe, but you might systematically underparticipate in the growth you need, because the biggest winners aren't the ones who predicted every crash. They're the ones who built systems to endure fear and stayed aligned with long-term progress. And after all the charts, the fees, and the black swans, we arrive at the only question that matters. Why? What is the point of the money game? Most people think wealth is about buying things, bigger houses, faster cars, status symbols that scream, I made it. But the highest form of wealth isn't what you can buy. It's what you can do. It's the ability to wake up and say, I can choose what my day looks like. That is the ultimate dividend. Money's greatest intrinsic value is control over your time. A high-paying job that steals your sleep and your family isn't wealth. It's a gilded cage. Real wealth is being able to walk away from a toxic situation, to wait for the right opportunity without panic, to show up when your people need you. The secret psychology of money is that the finish line is a state of mind, and not a number. Wealth is what you don't see, the purchases you didn't make, the ego you didn't feed, the quiet confidence of someone who finally understands enough. So here's the takeaway. If you want a stronger financial life, don't just build a portfolio. Build a mind that can handle the fee, accept that volatility is the admission price. Stop moving the goalposts. Respect the different weather behind people's money decisions. And protect the one asset you can never buy back: time. If this made you rethink your own invisible money script, tell me in the comments. What does enough mean to you? And who taught you that definition? Like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.